Welcome back to the 30-Second Success Podcast. If you've ever felt stuck in overthinking, questioned your next step, or caught yourself talking yourself out of the very thing you want most, this episode is for you. Because sometimes the biggest thing standing between us and the life we want isn't opportunity. It's the story we keep telling ourselves repeatedly. And today's conversation is all about self-talk, daring greatly, and building confidence through clarity and learning how small shifts in mindset can completely change the direction of your life. But first, if you're someone who knows you're meant for more, but you've been second guessing yourself, overthinking your message, or struggling to clearly communicate your value, I'd love to invite you to the Brand Success Hub. The Hub was created for entrepreneurs, professionals, speakers, leaders, and purpose driven individuals who want practical support in building confidence, strengthening communication, clarifying their message, and creating more meaningful connections. Inside, you'll find live trainings, visibility strategies, AI-powered communication support, leadership insights, and mini trainings from incredible experts and guests like the one joining us today. In fact, Jodi has agreed to share one of her amazing talks with us. So you can learn more at 30secondsuccess.com/hub. Now, let's jump into today's conversation. So today's guest is Jodi Silverman, speaker, mindset, and business happiness coach, and host of the top-ranked podcast, Dare On with Jodi. Jodi helps women, Jodi helps women navigate changes with greater confidence, resilience, and self-awareness through storytelling, practical mindset tools, and honest, relatable conversations. Jodi and I have known each other for years. We go way back to our network marketing days. So there's that, right? That's how we connected. She and I both found our way onto stage at major conferences. And it was just one of those relationships that I just felt so blessed to have and has continued throughout the years, even now that we've both moved on from network marketing. So Jodi, welcome. Thank you so much. Please tell our audience a little bit about you and what you're up to these days.
Oh, Laura, thank you for having me. And yeah, our network marketing days were fun. And I don't know about you, but I think I can say it fairly. It was a springboard that led us both to what the work we're doing today. So it can be very powerful. What am I up to today? Well, you kind of shared it. I like to call myself the CDO, the Chief Dare Officer at Dare On with Jodi. And it's through my Dare On community, my Mom's Tutor Facebook group, public speaking, and you mentioned a top ranked podcast, Dare On with Jodi, that I support midlife women in daring more, doubting less, and living fully. And what that really means is I share strategies that, when practiced, can build your resilience in this next chapter, specifically around mindset and happiness. That's my jam. And because I've done a lot of work on myself with that and figuring out, midlife can be like, well, what's next? And that's really what all of it is. It's about building the resilience to bounce back through the life challenges and transitions through midlife so that you can step into this next chapter and figure out what your brilliance is now.
Love that. And I agree with you 100%. I really feel like network marketing was the springboard for a lot of the work that I do now. It's what introduced me to networking. And that's
Yeah.
where the foundation of my business comes from. So I love that you shared how the what's next transformation happens in us. And a lot of times people get stuck in trying to figure out what that is. One
Yeah.
of the things that you shared with me is that, and it really stood out, was you believe many women don't actually have a confidence problem. They have a clarity problem. And you're speaking my language when you say that, right? So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about that.
So I used to so yes, I started my business really specifically speaking to that mom, the mom who was getting ready to, step into the empty nest stage of life. And I used to think we just didn't have the confidence, so we lost our confidence. And as I started speaking to hundreds and thousands of women, and they come into the Facebook group and they answer the question, "What's your biggest challenge?" I had like this mind-blowing aha moment that we don't have a confidence problem. We actually are more confident than ever as we step into our 40s and our 50s, and I'm about to be in my 60s. It's not confidence, it's clarity. we've lost ourselves in the roles that we've always had, whether that's motherhood and parenting, or as that attorney, or, you know, whatever that role is, as a daughter, as a caregiver, whatever those roles, we've lost ourselves. So we feel like we don't have the confidence, but it's really clarity. It's like, okay, well, who am I outside of these roles? If my role has shifted, if my role has changed, who do I get to be now? And that was like a big moment because I'm telling you, I'm like, you don't have a confidence. You have the confidence. We just don't have the clarity. And that's normal. I mean, and then you throw the whole menopause and hormonal imbalance and talk about clarity, cloudy clarity. So I started shifting the way I would speak to my audience, that it's really not a confidence problem, but in order to build it up a little bit stronger so that you feel confident enough to step into it, you need to get clear on, okay, who I am right now, who I am outside of, what are things I used to like to do, and get back in touch with, kind of like your inner self.
And I can see that, right? I see that, and
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I think you become more confident with age. I think the confidence is there, but we do identify with the roles that we're currently in. And when that role starts to come to a close, it's like, okay, what do I do now?
yeah,
And I I really appreciate that you are helping women to dive into the what's next.
yeah.
We get to design that, and I think
I know.
that's so powerful. I remember when you wrote your book and you were talking specifically from a place of a mom whose heart was struggling sending her last child off to college. And I could relate to that because, my daughter was getting married. My son was still at home, but he was now, taking on a role of, auto mechanic. And I'm like, okay, he's going to be leaving soon. And you go through so many different things that, emotionally that tie you to who you once were, but how do you carry everything that defined you into the next role? So,
Yeah.
what happens when someone finally gains clarity about who they are and what they want?
Well, I mean, then it's the daring action. It's the stepping out of your comfort zone and trying things around what you want to be. And that's a big leap from unclear, and stuck to clarity. And in between there, that's where the dare more and the doubt less comes in. To live fully is to stepping out of your comfort zone to try new things. And I take a step back from that. I usually start with women, two steps. One, let's talk about your self-talk, because what we tell ourselves grows and gets stronger and manifests. And what I mean by that is, if you're thinking, I'm no longer needed by my children, I'm no longer this, and all I know is that all I am is an attorney, and I'm just this, and I'm just, that's all you're going to believe. So we have to attack and really address what's going on in our head, because is it really true that you're not really needed by your children anymore? And I'm leaning into the empty nest thing because that's a big one for most of the women that find me. Is it really true? It's not. As a mother of a 31-year-old who's married and a 28-year-old who is in a long-term relationship, trust me, they still need you in a different way. So we address that. And then when you get clear, how you get clear is you start with a list. I mean, everybody I've ever interviewed on Dare On with Jodi has always said one of the first steps is making a list. Like, think back to who you were before you were somebody's mother, before you were somebody's partner, before you were somebody's girlfriend. Go back to your 20s. What did you like to do? If you like to cook, well, maybe dare to try a cooking class. So you make a list. And that's how you get clear on getting in touch with the things you used to like doing. And a really great question is, what is somebody doing that I see them doing that I think quietly to myself, that looks really cool. I might be able to do that. Maybe it's drawing. I have so many friends that went back into a creative mode and took watercolor and mosaic classes, and they love it. And that's what you do. So when you gain the clarity, now you take the action to dare to try those things that you think would interest you. And that's when you find opportunity and new people and new friendships in midlife. Because the second thing a lot of women say is they're looking for new, deeper meaningful friendships because their friendships have shifted. It's a big shift in midlife with your friendships. Some are, yeah, you have those people that are there with you for life, and then you have those people where it shifts as your children grow up. Maybe the moms you were friends with, it's not serving you anymore. And you just never know if you volunteer somewhere, if you enroll for a cooking class or an art class or a walking club, who you might meet. And that could be a new friend. And we were just talking about a woman named Beth Allen. She's become one of my closest, dearest friends in this chapter. And I've just met her really in the last 10 years.
I love Beth. And she, we were talking about how your personalities are so aligned and what she teaches is so similar to you. I'm going to have to get her on the podcast.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I should have both of you on the podcast together.
Oh, that would be fun. She
That would
could
be
do something
awesome.
really fun for your hub too, for your
For the Brand
success hub.
Success Hub. That'd be fun. Yes, I would love to do that. We'll have to talk about that. We'll get that on the calendar. So, and I appreciate what you said about going back to the things that you love, the things that you enjoyed, but yet looking for new things that light you up. And sometimes we forget that there's so much more out there in life that we can enjoy and really discover. And I think one of the biggest things, and I hear it a lot from a lot of my friends who, once their children have grown, they're like, I get to travel. I can just go
Yes,
wherever I want to go, except for the dog. What do I do with the dog? I know
I
there's
know.
always something, right? There's always something. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what are some of the most common patterns of negative self-talk you hear from women that are rediscovering themselves?
Well, I'm too old. I'm too
Hmm.
old to do that. We could talk about I in my mid 40s when my girlfriend called me and said, "You want to take tap dancing?" You're not too old. Like, I'm
Mhm.
too old to do that. That ship is that's silly. What will people think? We still worrying about what other people think about our dreams. And that's something permission to let go of. I mean, as we enter the 40s, you start to not care as much, but in your 50s and forward, caring about what other people think about your dreams and what you want to do, it's just not a thing anymore. It's like, I'm not asking permission. I'm sharing that I want to try and tap dance, and I'm going to try with or without you. So do you want to come? But that's really, it's like they think that ship has sailed. Maybe they want to go back to school. I mean, so many women go back to school and go for a career that they had maybe just want to learn something. I mean, I am not a student. I was never a student. I struggled. And yet I'm looking at two programs because I love this positive psychology. And I
Mhm.
never thought in a million years that I would ever enroll in a class in a school that would actually like ask me questions publicly in front of people. I'm considering doing that. I've done that. So I think it's the false narrative of I'm too old, that ship has sailed. It has not. And then going back to motherhood, I've heard this a lot from moms. They're like, well, if I we're so used to being available for our children. So when they leave, whether it's to college or beyond, you think, well, what if I commit to something every Wednesday? What if my child wants to come home? Or what if my child needs me on a Wednesday night, but I'm committed to this? And that's a kind of limiting belief because you're allowed to be committed on Wednesday night. And what if your child says, I'm coming home, let's have dinner Wednesday night? What if I had a real scenario where I planned a movie night out and my girlfriend said, I said, why aren't you coming? You love this movie. And she said, well, my daughter is coming home, and what if she has nobody to eat dinner with? I said, what if? What if? Can you maybe bring her to the movie? Because it was like 16 candles or Pretty in Pink on the big screen. Or could you say, you know what? I'm going to leave you dinner. I'm going to come home after the movie. We're going to go out for ice cream afterwards. Like, it's okay. You don't have to be waiting there. And you know what happened to my friend? Her daughter got a last minute invitation by friends that were also home to go out to dinner. And she said, Mom, would you be upset? She was no. And there she was sitting there alone. So it's okay to put yourself and your priorities first. It doesn't mean you're putting them last. It just means you have a boundary. You can say, you know what? I'm enrolled in a class every Wednesday. I can meet you after or before. So don't let that be a barrier. It's time in midlife, whether your kids are still at home or they're out, whatever it is, because a lot of kids still live at home these days, just the reality of the situation. It's okay to put yourself at the top of your list. That's not a selfish in a bad way thing to do. It's okay. You're teaching your kids too. You're teaching other people. When you have a boundary and when you put yourself at the top of the list, whether it's your children, whether it's an aging parent, whether it's a friend, you're modeling how you want to be treated and respected.
Hmm.
And that's really important. But it's
Setting boundaries.
uncomfortable.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off
No,
there.
it's uncomfortable at first.
It is. You're absolutely right. But setting boundaries is huge. And you don't realize those boundaries are actually respected until one of your kids' friends says, "Oh, Elmer told me Thursday's your busy day. We can connect on another day." Or
There
something
you
was
go.
happening and one of my son's best friends is like, "Mom, I know your busy day is Thursdays because Elmer told me. So what other day works for you?" I was like, you know,
Yeah.
but those boundaries are important. You're absolutely right. When they know, hey, but you have to share them with them.
Mhm.
They need to know, and they need because you're not only are you, asking them to respect your boundaries, but you're also teaching them to set their own boundaries. And I think that's something we forget how our kids learn from us showing them, right?
Absolutely.
And
Look, Laura,
setting
when you and
those.
I, when you
Yeah.
and I were in the network marketing business, I quickly became a weekly presenter, and I think it was a Tuesday night meeting. Every Tuesday night, my kids were both in high school. And I told
Mhm.
my kids, listen, Tuesday nights, this is important to me. I'm growing something. I'm having fun. I'm growing something. I'm learning. I loved every minute of it. I said, every Tuesday night, I'm out. So you're on your own for dinner. I'll have something in the fridge. Make yourself, eggs, whatever. And they were like, okay. And they knew. And like you just hit the nail on the head. It's about modeling the behavior and sharing with others how you want to be treated. It helps those in your life to respect you, and it'll cut down on friction. You won't get angry that somebody's trying to impose on you if they already know, hey, like Tuesdays are my day. Oh, I forgot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think it is so powerful to just remember that we're building our future as well as the future for our kids too. So I think that's really powerful. One of the things I wanted to ask you before, we're kind of, I don't know, we're not getting off topic. This is all good stuff, right? So, but I wanted to ask you why do you believe daring is one of the quickest ways to get unstuck?
So I will share that. And I will tell you that it's not something I came up with. Luann Kahn, an 8-time Emmy award-winning journalist in Philadelphia, is the woman that inspired me to make daring and daring on my platform. She is the queen of dare. She wrote a book about how she dared to do something new every day for a year to get unstuck. So just imagine I'm sitting listening to an 8-time Emmy award winning journalist telling me she's stuck. I'm like, oh, it's not just me. It can happen to anybody. And what I learned from her is that daring, which is her fun word, which has become something so embodied, and she has support, she will steal it, use it, do it. So with her permission, I've embraced it as my platform. I even have Dare On, which is my mantra on my wrist. Um, Daring is just a fun way of saying, stepping out of your comfort zone, saying yes to trying something new, and see where it leads. Well, that's the quickest way to fulfillment, to fun, to meeting people is by saying you're not going to find, a new hobby. You're not going to meet a new person by sitting at home. Now, is it easy? No, but there's a lot of ways to dare today. And like I said, going back to the beginning of the conversation, it could be as simple as enrolling in a class. And yes, introvert or extrovert, you know, this is where the mindset work comes in. This is where the doubting less. If you enroll in class and you say, but I'm going to walk in there alone and everyone's going to be staring at me. No, everybody who's walking into that class alone. Everybody's, if you switch the mindset from away from you, we always go to ourselves. We always focus on ourselves and how we're feeling. But if you shift it outward and say, everybody register for this class like I registered for this class. Is it really true that they're going to be staring at me? They're there for the same reason I'm there. It's the same thing that happened to me when I first became a professional speaker. And I remember I was so nervous, and somebody said something and it flipped it because public speaking is scary. But when they said this to me, they said, Jodi, if you always remember that when you get on stage, it's not about you at all. Nobody knows what you're about to say, only you do, but it's not about you. It's about that one person sitting in the audience that's going to be like, oh, when she just said that, that changed everything for me. And when I realized it has nothing to do with me and everything about the person sitting in that audience, just one person, it could be 1,000 people in the room, that changed it all. So when you start getting nervous, like I can't walk in there alone, everybody's walking in there alone. And everybody's going because they have an interest. It's a shared interest. So you flip the perspective and it can calm your nerves a little bit. And so, that's what I want to share with people. That's why daring is the quickest way. And daring can look so small. Daring can be when you're out running errands, making eye contact and smiling at everybody you see that day, just smiling. Opening a door for a random stranger, giving a compliment to a random stranger, to zip lining. Like it can be, daring is anything that has you out of your comfort zone a little bit and interacting with other people.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And yes, the public speaking, that one moment, that was your Luann Kahn moment.
Yes.
Yeah, that was your
Yeah.
Luann Kahn moment. You were the one
Oh, I
person in the
sat in that room.
audience, right?
Yes. Listen, here's a dare. Say yes to going to some type of women's conference, inspirational event, because all it takes is one speaker to say one thing that can change the entire trajectory of your life. And every time I walk into a room to hear a speaker, something is said. But Luann changed she gave me my platform.
Hmm. Petra Colbert is the speaker that changed my life.
There you
Yeah.
go.
It just there was that moment that um just listening to her, she shared a
Yeah.
poem and it just changed my life. I
Yes, say
just
yes. I have a friend who won't go to these women's conferences because she's scared she'll get called on. I said, you don't have to speak. You don't have to
Mm,
speak. You don't have to raise your hand. You know, and if you go to, they're not going to call on you. You don't have to do it.
mm.
Just be in the room. You could be a wallflower, be in the space. Put yourself in the room to hear the messages, and something will change for you.
100% agree with that. You are absolutely right. So if today's conversation is resonating with you, make sure you like, subscribe, and share the podcast with someone who may need this reminder today. Because so many people are walking around believing they need to become someone else, when what they really need is more clarity, more self awareness, and permission to trust themselves again. And that's exactly why we have these conversations here.
Mhm.
So I loved what you said about messaging. So one of the things let's talk about that a little bit deeper. Let's talk about, you had said, stop trying to make it sound sexy, professional, or perfect. I know this is something that you shared with me. I'm like, why do people struggle so much with simple communication?
Well, you know what? Every time I go to a networking event where they say you're going to have your 30-second, I think of you and I'm like, Laura's going to hate what I say. I'm like, I do. I fall into self-judgment. I think we overthink. I think we overthink. And I'm going to give you a dare that can help you with that. Improv. And I need
Mm.
to take this dare again because I have not taken an improv class in a couple years. Improv gets you out of your head and into your heart. And I think if we just stand up and we trust and believe we know who we are, we know what we do, we know who we serve. Doesn't have to be sexy, doesn't have to be fancy words, doesn't have to rhyme. But if you can stand up and just get out of your head and trust that you know who you are, what you do, and who you serve. I'm the Chief Dare Officer at Dare On with Jodi. I serve midlife women in daring more, doubting less, living fully. That's all about resilience, mindset, and happiness. I mean, I know who I
One.
am. Now, I
That's
could
it.
say that again and it'll sound totally different, but it's going to
Mhm.
be who I am, what I do, and who I serve. That's it. But I think we get stuck in the overthinking that it has to be impactful and powerful and the right way. And that's why I love when you started. I mean, you've been doing 30-second success for a long time. You've helped a lot of women get out of their head and into their heart about their 30-second. But that's why we think too much. And we have to get out of the thinking, and that's what improv allows us to do. Just trust that you know who you are. Come to this interview Any question you ask me, I'm going to have an answer for. I'm not, you know who, I know what I do, and I know how I do it.
And you know that I love the fact that you're saying try an improv class because you're absolutely right. It kind of gets you over the nervousness of speaking, you know, immediately, like the response. But I think there's a level of listening that has to happen as well. So especially in that daring, daring to take an improv class, there is there is that moment where you need to have an understanding of what it's being asked of you before you actually share. And I think taking in the people that are in the room makes a difference. You said about what you just shared from your 30-second message being something that may or may sound different the next time you say it. Absolutely, because you're probably taking in who your audience is. And we do that naturally when we are confident in what we want to share and the simplicity of it. So, but you mentioned that your podcast helped you become a better listener and a communicator. So, how did that experience change you?
I love the podcast. I didn't know. So before the pandemic, before COVID, BC, before COVID, I had an online talk show on Facebook, and it was called In the Nest with Jodi. And I didn't realize how
Mhm.
much I loved sitting with, and it was specifically for moms. And I didn't realize how much I loved sitting with other moms and them sharing their motherhood stories. I had a lot of fun
Mm.
with it. Um, and then I put that aside during COVID to create more community. And then during COVID and the year after, I was being invited to be on podcasts, and I loved being a guest, but I realized how much I missed being on the other side of it and hosting guests. And I watched people and I've learned, and I never would consider myself, I even to this day don't consider myself a great listener, a deep, deep listener. Um, and it's helped me. It's helped me to train myself to answer a question more succinctly and then let it land and ask you a question and just let you answer it, not ask multiple questions in a row, but let it land. And I'm learning and I'm hearing stories more, and I think it has helped me. It has helped me see things more clearly and just be better at listening and getting the stories out of women and men, because I have some daring men on my show. And it trains you to get out again. It's to get out of your head, not worrying about what the question I want to ask after is, just listening to what you say, and we might go down a whole different road. And that's why I do love improv, because I don't like trip me up. They trip me up. So I love being able just to listen to an answer to your question. And then if something pops up that you said, I'm just going to take it there and not worry about where I know where we want to end. So again, it's helped me learn to listen and trust that what is needed to be said will be said.
That's perfect. So, what shifts in relationships or leadership happens when people genuinely feel heard? What do you, where do you find that that overarching experience that, when people really start to lean in, that they feel heard? What is it that you have witnessed in your experience with the podcast?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Okay. So the shifts in the relationships, do you feel that when you are having conversations with people and they feel heard, do they have a tendency to open up more? How do they respond when they feel heard?
Oh, they absolutely, they feel it's a an open, safe space to share and get vulnerable with their stories. Absolutely, especially when I share with them that what I just shared before, your ability to get as vulnerable as you want to get with your story will impact one listener, just one. She's leaning in, she's listening to you now. And I might say, look, she's out there. She right now, as we're talking, she's leaning in. I can feel her leaning in. What do you want to say to her? And that really opens up guests, because when you get them into the mindset, they're all speaking to that one person, they forget about the inhibitions like go away, and they forget and they share openly. And that's my whole point. The whole goal of sharing the stories of other women and men on my show is to let everybody know we are so much more alike than we are different, Laura.
Mm,
Everybody has stuff. I heard Jen Kronberger and Tracy Davison, they are both two Philadelphia personalities, and they host an event called Lifting Your Voice. And the first one I went to, they said that everybody has stuff. We all have stuff. And we get caught up in we're all alone in our stuff. And my goal is for you to see, no, even somebody like Luann Kahn and Tracy Davidson and Joan Corbett and Laura Templeton have doubt and have fear. It's just that they've put practices into place that have helped them question it and come out of it quicker. And you can learn that too.
mm. So you shared with us something very powerful. You said about taking the stage isn't about you, it's about the person who needs to hear something differently, right? So what would you say to someone who's afraid to use their voice publicly right now?
I would probably ask them what the fear is. I would say what the fear, are you in fear of judgment? Is it fear? My biggest, you call it a fear or limiting belief, was I don't really have this crazy rags to riches story. I mean, when you're in network marketing, you hear some stories. I mean,
Mhm,
heart wrenching stories. And I used to sit there and say, I don't have a story like that.
mm,
And then I realized that my story is very common. It might not be a horrible, I was down and out living in my car story. But so I would ask that woman or man, like, what is the fear around? And and then I would go on to say, is it true? Question it. Like, is it true that your story can't make a positive impact for somebody in that audience? Is it true that you don't think that you're the only one that has this story? And what if? What if is a powerful question. What if?
mm,
How will it feel to share your story? Because it is about the people in the audience, so it's about you too. Will it feel like you've a relief? You've got it out. And now what if? By you doing that, by you getting vulnerable, by you saying, I'm going to do this, even scared, somebody afterwards comes up to you or sends you a message. When you said this, I felt seen.
mm. That's really powerful. And I love the fact that you asked the what if question, but you also tapped in to the how would it feel?
The
That's a
big,
very key question that a lot of people don't ask themselves. How
yeah.
would it feel if I tried this? How would it feel if I did this for one day? That's definitely a daring approach.
And
Mm,
some people flip on the opposite. So you could ask yourself, how would it feel if I don't try
mm,
that? Well, how would it feel if I never tried a cooking class? How would I feel? And if the answer is not, no big deal, then maybe the cook cross it off and go to the next thing. But some people need the don't, not the how would it feel, but feeling, tapping into your emotions, because a lot of times we feel things before we cognitively like figure it out. That's what I want. So how would I feel if I never tried public speaking? I would not feel good. I would feel like I missed out on something. So I did it scared. The first time I took the stage, I got people were like, that was great. I remembered nothing of what I said. Nothing. I kid you not. I was so nervous. I don't even know what I said. And I probably talked a mile a minute, but it was good.
it was good. It was good. I remember being there. I can't tell you what you said either, but I remember being
Uh,
there and it was everybody loved it. So Jodi, thank you so much for sharing everything with us. One thing I really appreciate about this conversation is the reminder that transformation doesn't usually begin with giant leaps. It begins with awareness, with honesty, with learning to recognize the stories we've been repeating to ourselves and daring to choose something different. Because
yes.
sometimes the most powerful shift we can make is it isn't actually external at all. It's internal, right? The most powerful shifts we make is internal. I appreciate you so much. Please share with our audience a little bit about the offers that you have that we'll
Okay.
actually have in our show notes and how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So I think I gave you two. One is 30 tiny dares. And I'm talking tiny dares. And I just updated these two resources. I'm talking about like take yourself out for coffee, watch a sunset, take a walk with your phone. So I have 30 tiny dares. You can print it out and check mark as you do them, and you can share them with me. Find me on Facebook, find me and share your dare. Say, Jodi, I did a tiny dare today. I will be your biggest cheerleader. And then the other one, I believe, is the 7-day mini reset, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I just updated that. So it's audio and you can read it or audio, but I took my 21-day self-talk reset, which is a paid program, and I reduced it into a free 7-day mini reset. So you can get a taste of what it's like in 7 days to start noticing what you're thinking and what you believe about yourself and start creating the shift that you need so that you can do the 30 tiny dares.
And what's the best way for our audience to connect with you? Where can we find
Well,
more
if
of
you like
Jodi?
listening to podcasts, please go over to Dare On with Jodi. That's the name of the podcast, and it's everywhere you listen to your podcasts. And if you want to learn a little bit more about me in general, it's my website, jodisilverman.com, and you can find the podcast there as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I am so grateful that you were here with me today. I learned so much
This was
just
wonderful to
from
reconnect with you again, too.
chatting. So, so if today's conversation reminded you that confidence doesn't come from perfection, but from clarity, self-awareness, and the willingness to take one small brave step forward, then I hope you'll carry that into your next conversation, your next decision, and your next season of growth. Because daring more often starts with believing you're already capable of more than you realize. And if you're ready to strengthen your communication, clarify your message, and build confidence in your voice and connect more authentically in business and life, I'd love to invite you to join us at the Brand Success Hub. The hub was designed for entrepreneurs, professionals, leaders, and communicators who are done second guessing themselves and ready to communicate with more clarity, confidence, and compassion while learning practical strategies that actually work in the real world. And Jodi is going to be sharing her perspective on daring and what it means and why it's the quickest route to getting unstuck. You can learn more at 30secondsuccess.com/hub. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs the reminder that small mindset shifts can create massive life changes. Until next time, stand in your brand, trust your voice, and remember, success is just 30 seconds away.